Ciao, hi, hey, just checking I'm live on Facebook, guys. Come on, Facebook. Ciao, hi, hey, it's your boy M.K.S here, back to another video. Hope everyone's well wherever you are. Time has eluded me today, but I'll make another late upload. But anywho, it's almost midnight here in the UK, but I know I'm a night owl, but yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope I don't repeat myself too much, I'm going to say, but I'd love to read any comments, so please do share your comments. I hope you'll give me some positive encouragement, but if you want to put hate mail or negative things, if you want, that's up to you, but please do get involved in the comment section, and I hope you'll like these videos, and share them, and do what you can to support my content. I really appreciate that. If you obviously it's your choice, but I really love that, and you subscribe, so obviously I welcome all of that. And these are pointers number 11 to 20 as per usual. Again, hope I don't repeat myself too much, but here goes. So it's my imaginations, imaginates and dreams and whatnot for Italian soccer, footy, calcio, football, or whatever you want to call it, including to connect with my fellow Italian football fans, as well as Celtic fans, I guess, at some point. Ideally, at the end of this month, I'd love to be able to have discussions with other Italian soccer fans, if not maybe in March, because in February I hope to focus on African American empowerment, and I'd love to do like Calcio Connect, Calcio meaning kick, and also football, or soccer or whatever in Italy. I'd love to know what soccer is in your language and what your favourite term is for soccer, or whatever you want to call it. Also, the terms you don't like here in Britain, people don't like the term soccer, so please forgive me for those who don't like that term. And I know in Italy, as I say, they call it calcio, but I'd love to know what your least and most favourite things are about soccer, and that kind of thing. But if you want to support a neurodivergent YouTuber or YouTuber wannabe rather, and a mentally ill YouTuber wannabe and that kind of thing, I really appreciate that. And here goes. So number 11, I know that I mentioned in part one that I think that the problem with Italian soccer, just like, funny enough and sadly enough, Celtic's manager, which I think is a real shame that it didn't work out for him. I got this notebook, to be honest, I'm not really supposed to, but around Christmas. And this year I vowed to myself, and I promised to God, even though I'm not that religious, that I won't get any more notebooks or papers without permission. I want to do what I call one to, I want to share for share. So if I have like creative rooms or whatever, and anyone, like, I know I've mentioned before again, but my infamous words, but any mosques or churches or whoever helps me to with my content or with my writing or whatever, I would return the favour by sharing religious material. Or if a business supports me, I'd share business material or whatever literature or things people want me to share. I hope that makes sense. As ever, if you have any questions, please fire away as well. Hopefully not about my celebrity, but on a serious note, but yeah, I think there's a lack of flexibility. It's quite inflexible, and I know myself, as you point out in these videos, that I know I mentioned I repeat myself quite a lot, unfortunately, and that kind of thing. But I know I'm a creature of habit, and I think the problem with Italian soccer is that it's very, and again, sadly enough, with Celtic, what I was going to say about the notebook I got is that I was writing about. I hope that, as I called him Brother Wilfred, or I call him Brother Wilfred, because I don't like how his surname is pronounced in English or whatever, but I wanted it to work out, and I was hoping he would work with former Celts and sort of change up his strategy. But a lot of people say he was quite stubborn and arrogant and that kind of thing, and inflexible, if you like, which is a big word for me. But yeah, I suppose I myself lack flexibility sometimes, or most of the time, as a creature of habit. But I think Italian soccer is like stuck in its ways, being too defensive and that kind of thing. So I'd love to see what changes could be implemented. I'd say I'd love to have like Calcio 2 Connect, where I chat to my fellow my fellow Italian soccer supporters on Zoom and Discord or whatever, if I learn to use that. Zoom is the one I like to use with my printer or whatever, but I'd love to chat about what Italian soccer could change, how could it market itself better, what could it learn, and how can it adapt, how can it become more attacking, things like that, which I don't know about before. How can it actually implement new strategies and make those changes involve, like in the FIGC, the Italian FA, maybe involve former players as well as current players in like the wider society in Italy, which I talked about again in part one, and the diaspora, which I hope to come to in more details. And again, I mentioned in part one, but also how can what can it do about marketing and like the league itself? Like how can it learn from the Premier League and the EPL, English Premier League, or whatever? And sorry, I'm trying to bring my train of thought in. Another one of my weaknesses, again, my train of thought. But yeah, how can it implement changes, become more attacking, market itself better, learn from the rest of the world, learn from different sources, and change things up a bit and be a bit flexible, maybe even in games themselves. Like think, okay, this isn't working. What can we do to change, even in the game, changing tactics, resting certain players, using game management, seeing what Italian soccer weaknesses are, and how we can improve on that kind of thing. And talking about weaknesses, finding out the opposition's weaknesses and trying to exploit them. But sometimes playing a high pressing game, sometimes playing a defensive game, and that kind of thing. I'm sure there's something else I was going to say, but I completely forgot something. But I'm going to move on to point number 12. And I was going to mention this, and I was thinking when I went for my walk, my short walk around the block, I was thinking about mentioning this in point number 11. I actually thought about it, I think, before I went for my walk. And I'd love to get in touch with, like, and find a way, or even Italian soccer fans maybe writing letter-headed letters and making videos and other ways to communicate with, like, the PIF, Public Investment Fund from Saudi Arabia, the Qatar Sports Investment Authority or whatever, Qatar Sports Investment, Dubai, obviously Qatar, as I say, Saudi, UAE, and other places, and talk about, like, one thing they could do is invite Italian teams, especially youth teams, to come and play, as well as Celtic, to come and play in their countries, and maybe record those games and use them for fundraising and to promote their tourism industry and that kind of thing. And like, Visit Rwanda sponsors Arsenal, but I'd love for them to do that with Roma and Celtic. But also, I'd love for them to sponsor academies for the youth, so the PIF to give Italy like $1 million, or even not a trillion maybe, but $1 billion, if I'm really dreaming, to develop academies all over Italy and have as many as possible, and do this thing. Another idea I've got, which is like pay a certain amount of young Italians to play soccer, and if they get injured, they could still have an insurance policy. So if they don't make it pro, or they don't make a career out of it, and they lose the ability to have a career, they would still have that funding to fall back on. So again, it would be like an insurance policy, just like an insurance policy for a house or a car or whatever. Basically, an insurance policy. I'm probably overcomplicating it a bit, but so if they get an injury or something goes wrong that they can't play, they would still have that career, so they could take more of a risk. And talking about risks as well, I suppose I'm going to say this in point number 11. I'm going to should have would have, but giving young players, I think one problem Italian soccer has is like when young players make mistakes, they probably get told off. So many teams, and I think the goalkeepers shouldn't really take too many risks, or defenders. I think they should keep it very simple. But I think centre mids and midfielders, wingers, and also strikers should be able to take more risks and try different skills and tactics. And if they make a mistake, even defenders and goalkeepers, I think if they make a mistake, they can still be encouraged. And football could also be used for tackling, bullying, and other issues. But I think that it would be cool to give young players a chance to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. I think it's similar with like being in school, the economy itself and work. Sometimes it's you're not allowed to. You're discouraged from making mistakes. I mean, it's not nice to make mistakes, but I think if you're encouraged, that's good in a way, because it means you learn from something. So you learn from failure. As I say, failure is feedback, and I think it's the same in soccer. I'd love to see what Italian soccer can learn from La Liga, EPL, Barcelona, La Masia, Clairefontaine, Spanish football, French football. I often wonder why they can't play like Spain or France or whatever, because they are Mediterranean nations as well, with similar cultures, and utilise migration like France has done, and look at how diversity can be a benefit, hopefully, in soccer. I was thinking, actually, I forgot to say in point number 11 about neurodiversity and changing perceptions and what we can do with our creativity. Number 13, some of my fears for soccer, and you could call them first world fears, are like, my fears of my videos as well as like whether people enjoy them, repeat myself too much, or worry whether I bore or offend people or whatever, and be a creature of habit and certain numbers reminding you of certain things and whatever. But this month I really wanted to focus on Italian soccer, so I know I might repeat quite a few of the points, but because they're quite important to me. But when I think about it, but I guess that's why, because they are very important, and I'm trying to find ways to put them into practice. But yeah, I worry whether people enjoy them. And when it comes to soccer, my fears are like Italy not winning the most World Cups. Again, you might call it a first world problem, or these first world problems generally. Italian teams not winning the most trophies and that kind of thing, and also Celtic not winning, not staying ahead off the rankers, as I call them, and our tight board costing us or whatever. So yeah, those are some of my fears. Again, you might call them first world problems, and a rather embarrassing thing, like I mentioned recently, and I've mentioned a few times, but I don't want to brush it under the carpet. Is like they're at the boys' club, and again, I know I mentioned this recently, but there was like an abuse scandal, a child abuse scandal, which is very embarrassing and a shame and a blight on the club. But I hope the club will learn from it, and I hope it won't get like points deductions or demoted or stuff like that. Those will be some of my nightmare scenarios, especially as we laughed at them, the Rangers, the Rankers, as I call them, or they, especially them, those who should be mentioned, those who should be named. That's what I should call them from now on, I think. But yeah, just to clarify what I mean, or if people ask me who do you mean by they or them, but yeah, I hope it wasn't too many people involved in that. And I know it's something the club should be ashamed of and should try and learn from and make sure it doesn't happen now or in the future ever again, and that kind of thing. But from a selfish point of view, I would love for like Catholics, individuals and groups to invest in and donate to and sponsor, even donate to the club. So I know I mentioned again, I know I mentioned recently, but the hatred that they have against Catholics, the club could capitalise on it. But moving on, number 14, I know I mentioned normally like how I love for soccer to be, or football again, or whatever you want to call it, to be used to tackle problems, to solve problems and that kind of thing. And I love for Italian soccer and Celtic to work with FIFA on that, and UEFA, and hopefully be rewarded for such with more funding, investments and that kind of and more access to capital and that kind of thing to hopefully develop infrastructure, youth development, and also Italian clubs to be able to buy better players and bring in the best possible players, coaches, managers, and whatnot. And something I forgot to say in point number 4, and with my pounds, I think I'm like 14, 1 and 4, so next 14. But as a dyslexic entrepreneur Simon Squibb says, 1 + 1 makes 11. In other words, we work together as teams. If we work together as teams, we achieve more, I think is what it means. But I was thinking about how I talk about like peace through soccer, or football, or whatever you want to call it, as I say, and how I would love for companies, and again, apologies for repeating myself, I know I do apologise a lot, I do repeat myself a lot, but companies to, maybe that is I don't know if that's a Michael thing or a neurodiversity thing, but companies to be discouraged from investing in wars and the weapons trade, which I think would make the world a more peaceful place. But what do you think? Do you think I'm being naive in saying that? So let's say BlackRock, or I was going to say the PIF, or whatever company, Cascade Investments, Berkshire Hathaway, or whatever, think, oh yeah, we're going to make lots of money by investing in wars. And consumers say, oh, we're going to boycott your companies if you do that. But if you invest in soccer instead and peace through soccer, which would be about promoting the image of the beautiful game and making it more beautiful, become beautiful, stay beautiful, and that kind of that's how they call it, the beautiful game. That to have a consumer group that will reward such. But I think ethical businesses require ethical consumerism. Businesses require consumers. So the more ethical consumers are, the more ethical I think businesses will be encouraged or even forced to be, because obviously they want that custom. But again, maybe I'm being naive, maybe it's too big to challenge like the weapons trade, but certainly it's something I would love to have a campaign to try to discourage. And as a side note, I know it's a bit different away from soccer, due to my parents, I'm saying something because it's a Saturday, and it's like alliterates or whatever. I'm very silly with my alliterations, a bit too obsessed with them, another bad habit of mine. But I was going to say, I was going to type, but I was running short of time. There's so many different ideas I had today and planned as usual. But I was going to type up about like how I'd love to campaign for the UN. I don't really trust them that much, but maybe they could win my trust and people like me, to say, to promote like the right to resist, which I suppose could be connected to peace through soccer. But the right to resist would be about challenging forced conscription all over the world, like trying to get rid of it where it exists and trying to make sure it doesn't get implemented or whatever applied to any other nations, countries, or whatever. So if America or Britain or Germany or France or whoever decides they want to do like forced conscription, then I think the right to resist should challenge that sort of thing and sort of even like help people in Israel, North Korea, and other places that. I mean, North Korea, I suppose, was already kind of a pariah state internationally, so it would be hard to see like the right to resist being implemented there. But hopefully, it would be by international law, and any country, any nation that violates it or goes against it will hopefully be condemned by the international community. So the right to resist being the right to be a pacifist, conscientious objector, most importantly, to avoid going to wars and things like that. But yeah, the ones I know. Number 15, talking about my fears, I guess my biggest dreams would be in football, in soccer, would be, as I mentioned recently, but to see the Italian national team win the most trophies and like win 3 or even 4 World Cups in a row or things like that. It would be amazing if they won 4 in a row, because I think of like, I mean, how amazing that would be. No nation in the world has ever won, no country has ever won 3, let alone 4 World Cups in a row. But yeah, would exceed not my expectation, my biggest dream of seeing the Italian national team, the Azzurri, winning the most trophies. Number 16, I'd love to know how Italian soccer could market itself and brand itself better with things like saying it's cool, sexy, colourful, and all that kind of thing. Number 17, so yeah, it would be hard to imagine Italian soccer winning that many trophies at club and country level, but I'd love to see them win maybe even more than I hope for. It'd be hard to imagine it, but I'd love for my ideas and other neurodivergent people and mentally ill people's ideas to contribute to that, to change the perception of such, as I said before. And also Celtic, I'd love to see Celtic winning. Like in the future, if the world lasts long enough, I'd love to see Celtic winning 150 or even 200 trophies. Very unlikely, again, it'd be hard to imagine, but in my wildest imaginations, I would love to. I don't know if I can imagine it, but I sort of think about it, obviously, because I've mentioned it, but I can't really picture it, in other words, what I call picture or physical imagination. Yeah, I'd love to see Celtic basically winning as many trophies as possible and continue to win trophies. Number 18, I'd love to see how soccer can be used for the greater good, and for Italian soccer and Celtic to do lots of fundraising events and be part of football, soccer for good. And again, I think of like, a lot of people talk about like a biblical perspective. I know I say not that religious, but I know I mentioned like swords into plowshares, many hands make light work and things like that. Swords into plowshares could be like peace through soccer, that kind of thing, for instance. Promoting peace, love, building bridges and that kind of thing. There could be a big piece of love through soccer and that kind of thing. But I also sorry, lost my train of thought again, but sorry. Football for the great good. But yeah, sorry. What I was going to say is when some people say the more you give, the more you get. So like they say, if you tithe to the church or if you give to charity, you end up getting more when you give. It comes back to you. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I thought about that philosophy and going back to like FIFA. Italian football and Italian soccer and Celtic working with FIFA and UEFA and saying we're going to promote a good image of soccer and show what soccer can do to tackle poverty and make the world a better place, hopefully. And in return, hopefully, in the case of Celtic, because they play in the hoops, hopefully I say, in return, hopefully, they will, again, they'll get more. FIFA and UEFA will invest into it and sponsor Italian soccer more and provide more pitches and things like that, but also give more access to allow companies to bypass FFP, financial fair play rules, and invest as much money as possible into Italian soccer and Celtic. And the more money is involved in Italian soccer and cerebral Celtic, hopefully, or in football generally, soccer generally, hopefully that'll benefit FIFA anyway for more. So hopefully I'll see some positives in that. But I'd love to know if you have any suggestions on how I can promote that idea with FIFA and UEFA. Number 19, I'd love to again have fundraisers through soccer, which help projects in developing nations, whether that's helping software developers, startups, SMEs, business generally, marketing, um, education, teaching, training, or whatever it might be in developing nations. And number 20, supporting young people and supporting people of all ages, supporting disabled people and disadvantaged people. I'd love to know any suggestions you have on how that could work, and maybe how Italian soccer and Celtic could be involved in that more, or even more in Celtic's case. And I'm out in peace and love.